Yeah, I don't like that.
Don't feel like it.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for helping us out.
I have it, and it tastes like garbage to me. I don't like it. And so I don't ever end up using it. I use like lemon and ginger tea. They have lemon, but then they have lemon and ginger. I think it's just the twinings, whatever it is. I like that a lot. It's got a little like bite from the ginger, but it's not harsh. And it feels good to me. Oh, Rebecca, I'm having an appointment at Evergreen today.
Hi, son. Up. Hi,
I was
son.
looking for her.
Yes. Baruch atah Adonai, mevarech hashanim. Baruch atah Adonai. This is our year to dream.
We gather here as another year begins. We pray you'll give us what we need. But this broken world needs our help to heal. Be a shining light and see your dream is realized.
Baruch atah Adonai, mevarech hashanim. Baruch atah Adonai. This is our year to dream.
We gather here as another year begins. We pray you'll give us what we need. But this broken world needs our help to heal. Be a shining light and see your dream is realized.
Baruch atah Adonai, mevarech hashanim. Baruch atah Adonai. This is our year to dream.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Good Yantif.
Yontif.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
And I forgot these last night. Gemar Chatima Tova. And Sam Kal. Those last two are the traditional greetings that we use on Yom Kippur, only on Yom Kippur, and that is for being written and sealed in the book of life. So you could also just say Gemara works fine, or the other one some call an easy fast for those of you that are fasting. And those of you fasting, your health is the most important. We do have lots of people to help if anyone feels faint, but just make sure you're watching yourself. How wonderful for us to be together. Let's take a nice deep breath. We've made it to Yom Kippur morning. How wonderful for us to be together. I'd like to invite Bruce Chorus to officially welcome you here. Welcome you home.
There you go.
Bruce, can I just say something for a minute?
Sure. I always let the cantor talk before me.
Are you getting the speakers back there? Yes? Good. Okay, thank you.
I don't think this one's on.
No, I have to turn it on and off to
Okay.
avoid feedback. So
Got
you
it.
tell me when you want to
Well,
use it.
some of the readers will come up and use that one.
Okay,
Perfect.
I'll control that.
Lashana Tova, everyone. As I said last night on this most solemn of days, it gives me great joy to see so many members of our temple family here together on this really wonderful day as we look back on the past year and look ahead to the new one and think about what we can do to make the world a better place. And so much of that happens on a regular basis at this temple, and it fills me with great pride to be part of this temple family. A couple of quick notes as we get started. Rabbi mentioned, if you're not feeling too well, we certainly have doctors in the congregation tonight. If something goes wrong, we have lawyers. We're all set. And for those of you that haven't been in the building in a while, because there are people that only come on Yom Kippur morning, we do have a first aid kit out there. We have an AED, also known as a defibrillator. We have a stop the bleed kit, and just look around you, make sure you know where your nearest exit is. We have a couple of emergency exits in the sanctuary. If you go out the doors, well, there are no doors. If you go out the openings where the doors will be when the doors arrive, the new doors, you can either go left into the front lawn or out the main door to the parking lot. Not that we anticipate anything, but it's always good just to be alert. And thank you to those of you that are wearing your masks. We're seeing some more illnesses going around. We've been very flexible throughout the course of the high holidays. We haven't missed a beat. You haven't noticed anything. But we've lost Torah chanters. We've lost accompanists. Todd is down for the count, but he's outside today. We have the best dressed parking attendant in Western New York, but he's not coming in. He doesn't want to take a chance with you guys. We appreciate that. So again, if you need anything during the service, please look for Joanne, myself, one of the ushers wearing the boutonniere. We are here for you, whatever you need. Lashana Tova.
There's also someone here from Jewish Family Service. If people feel in crisis, please go to our library. We have someone that can talk to you as well. We have our maksor. Everyone have our silver, heavy maksor. Yours is not nearly as heavy as mine. And we have a number of honors that are going to come up. If those of you that are coming up, we do have, my print is bigger, so feel free to use this as well. And we are going to begin with a reading on page 135. Jeff and Denise Balsam, we thank you.
We stand this day, all of us, in the presence of our God, youth and elders, women and men, those close to tradition and those who have been estranged. All are welcome in this community of prayer. Around the world, all Israel greets this holy day. We stand with them, a people united by our history and fate, linked in mind and heart to generations past, who stood before God to be cleansed of their sins. In Russia, Poland, Germany, and Spain, and Morocco, Egypt, Brazil, and India. Our great-grandparents are here with us today, and our great-great-grandchildren as well. All are present in memory and hope, we stand this sacred morning, all of us, as one.
We thank you, living and eternal one, for morning light, for the breath within us, for strength and life renewed. Now it opens before us the Sabbath of Sabbaths, gift of spacious contemplation, mirror for the soul. May we see our lives reflected in this still clear pool, a day apart. Unhurried time and undivided mind. Give us joy in this day that Israel shares. Give us presence and attention, clear vision, a listening heart. We wake to the morning, we open our eyes, we breathe your name.
We have a reading that celebrates the earth. I'd like to invite up Joe Morris. It's a reading not in our book. It's called The Little Green Planet. And you might be aware that Joe writes the column in our high notes about Earth and ecology. It's called Love Letter to the Third Planet.
Little brown planet, draped in a talit of swirled white and blue, though we are not cloaked in mystery like Venus, nor ringed in splendor like Saturn, nor awesome in majesty like Jupiter, little brown planet, if I were God, you would be my chosen planet. And I would gift you with elephants for grandeur, great oaks for endurance, golden grasses for warmth, tawny leopards for grace, orchids for glory, giraffes for whimsy, rabbits for gladness, and flamingos for fun. And when I had bedazzled you with every wonder of my being that I could create, I would then charge you with its protection. For if you corrupt or destroy it, there is no one to repair it after you.
We rise together for our call of community, page 178, the Baruch Hu. For the Shema, page 186. Raphael and Alan Gellin to lead us in the Via Hafta, page 188, and we'll go to page 191.
Via Hafta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shokbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'b'isharecha leman tizkuru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yetem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem mi'eretz Mitzrayim liot lahem Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
We're going to continue on page number 189, When You Love. And I'd like to invite up Ruth and Randy Spivak to lead us. Just for people coming up, there is a microphone below if you choose, or come up to the bima. We'd love to have you either.
When you love Adonai,
I can put it on.
even better, this is in big print. When you love Adonai Elohecha, body and soul, those things I ask of you will be possible.
To answer your children's questions about me and believe your answers yourselves. To connect religion to your everyday comings and goings. For example, when you hug them in bed at night with tender words, Shema Yisrael, or when you think to say Mada Adonai, or Anai, in the rush of getting them up and out in the morning, to be alert enough to open doors for your children in every waking moment and when they dream.
And finally, to remember just why all these things matter. They matter because I, Adonai Elohecha, brought you and your children out of Egypt to be God for you. I am your God, and when you do these things, I will be your children's God.
We continue now with the Michamocha, page 196. 196. like to invite up Larry and Gail Kerman to read for us, page 198 at the top, In the Depths.
In the depths of night, by the edge of the river, Jacob was left alone.
In heartfelt longing, in the temple of God, Hannah uttered her prayer alone.
In the barren wilderness, in doubt and despair, Elijah found God alone.
On the holiest day, in the Holy of Holies, the high priest entered alone.
We are bound to one another in myriad ways, but each soul needs time to itself.
In solitude, we meet the solitary one. Silence makes space for the still small voice.
For the psalmist says, deep calls unto deep. From the depths of our soul, we seek what is most profound.
Before we go into the silent Amida, let's take a moment of silence. And I want you to listen for Jessica's beautiful prayer from the back, how it'll elevate all of our prayers. When you're ready, please rise if you're able. We have our silent Amida from 198 to 205. Take time for your own private prayers. Our prayer for life well lived, page 202 at the top, Zokreinu L'chaim.
Never
Turn to page 209. This is the moment where we look around and we're so appreciative of each and every one here. We don't know what the next year holds. All we know is that we are here right now, and that is important. The Unatana Tokef is about dread, as Jackie will read in a minute, but it is also really about appreciation in life. So I'd like to invite up Jackie Taylor to read for us the introduction, Unatana Tokef, on 209. 209.
Today, we call it by its rightful name, a day of dread, Nora V. Ayom, unwelcome visitor, for we want to live in a sunny world where God is love and all endings are happy. But the drumbeat sounds and the words tumble down, and even the angels tremble with fear. For all things are judged, and all things will pass, and life ends in a heartbeat, and death knows our name. At the start of the year, in the season of truth, comes a day of remembrance for all we forget and all we deny, and we fall on our knees in the depths of our hearts, for we know that the bell tolls for us. The words are old and the language was theirs, but the call is real and the message is ours. Take hold of your life while you still have the chance, for your story will end and it might be this year. In a way you don't know, take hold of your life. Make things right while you can, and don't miss the call of the day of the dread.
I invite you now to rise for the Unatana Tokef in the middle of 208. Page 210, together in the English. And so a great chauffeur will cry, Tekiah! A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, Behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes, even they are not blameless. All who come into this world pass before you like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff. You count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments. At the top of 212 in the Hebrew.
Hey!
together. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine? Who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? On the next page. But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. Be seated. It was wonderful to hear all your voices out there. Really, that's really what we're doing here today, those of you that are familiar with the prayers. We're going to bring up for a reading Jessica Cunningham, the reading The Birds Shall Sing. It's on page 251. As Jessica comes up here, she is the head of our parent council and does so much for our religious school, community religious school. Again, page 251. Use this. I have the right page.
The birds they sang at the break of day. Start again, I heard them say. Don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be. The wars they will be fought again. The holy dove be caught again, bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
We turn to that moment, Avinu Malkeinu, page 252, 53, where we think about God as our family member. God is connected, how we see God in all those that we love. We're going to invite you to rise. I'm going to have David Sapphire open our ark here. And I'd like to bring over Mark and Sue, let's see if I get this right. Sue Hill and Mark Nightinger. I got it right this time. Now, see Frank, see it's written here. I had it wrong. Oh man, I think she should be a spy. You got a lot of aliases there.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu
Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew us for a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion. compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
And we continue singing together. Thank you, Stuart.
Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu v'Anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu v'Anenu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, Yehoshieinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu v'Anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu v'Anenu, Ki ein banu ma'asim.
You may be seated. Everyone can hear all right in the back? We have new sound system, a new social hall, a new everything around the synagogue these days. But it's wonderful to look out here and to see those beautiful windows in the back. It really helps us feel the holiness of this area, of this room. Before charging into battle, officers in the Israeli army are known to shout something that runs contrary to all other militaries in the world, something that if things do not go as planned, could endanger the entire command structure around them, and yet still they shout it. They shout, Acharai, after me. The question is, if it is so dangerous, potentially leaving their subordinates without leadership, why do these officers do this? They do it because it sends a message to everyone around them. I will not ask you to do anything that I would not do first. That your blood is just as sacred as mine. That the fate of our mission lies in each and every one of our hands, and that you matter to me. 50 years ago, on Yom Kippur Day, 1973. How many of you remember that moment? The cry of Acharai resounded for a small battalion of troops and tanks stationed in the closest outpost to Syria in the Golan Heights, Outpost 107. If you've been up to the Golan Heights and you know how crammed it is, you've probably seen a lot of the remnants of this battle. As war broke out that morning, which would be the parallel to Yom Kippur this morning, the soldiers were under heavy fire, destroying most of the outpost positions and even their supply of drinking water. While IDF tanks managed to hold off the enemies, destroying several Syrian tanks, their ammunition was soon exhausted, leaving the 19 remaining troops completely outnumbered and cut off from the rest of the army. Several days later into the war, their rations were dangerously low. Worse yet, they were all that stood in the way of the Syrian tanks having a direct path to Tel Aviv. In the hill above them, there were 110 tanks, a full armored division. Their commanding officer, Eli Melech, radioed for air support. Negative, he was told. Then he radioed for armor support. Negative, he was told. Then he radioed for artillery support. Negative, he was told once more. Ze avud, all is lost. many of the troops said, slumping into their bunkers. One soldier was so desperate, he carved the names of all 19 men on a shell casing as a way that they could be remembered later. Yossi Zadok, a Golani corporal, stood with his bazooka in hand, unsure of how to proceed. He had never been considered a great shot with a bazooka, and making matters worse, he only had a few rounds of ammunition left. Just firing the weapon alone was going to be tricky. To locate a target and fire, Yossi would have to raise his head above the top of the bunker for several seconds, leaving him completely exposed. This was against protocol and perhaps even suicidal. But what choice did he have? Stopping the oncoming Syrian army was an imperative to saving the country. So working with one of his fellow troops, a mortar man by the name of Amos, they devised a plan of action. Amos would put his helmet on top of his rifle and raise it above the top of the bunker for a few seconds to see what the Syrian response would be. If they received fire back, they would move to another spot. If it was clear, Yossi would prepare his bazooka and shoot. Taking a deep breath, the two beleaguered soldiers prayed, and then lifting the helmet, they waited. Nothing. Yossi stood and fired, scoring a direct hit. They did this several more times, each time taking down a tank. When they ran out of bazooka rounds, and this is pretty unbelievable, they used the only thing they had left, phosphorus. If you know what phosphorus, it's not a military weapon. It is really just meant to mark the tank so they could be found out. Amazingly, it worked. It scared another group of Syrians out of their tank, thinking it was on fire. In the end, all 19 troops survived. Yossi was the only one injured, but he thankfully recovered a few months later. And after more than 100 hours trapped inside of a narrow bunker with little food or water, under constant enemy fire, they had managed to survive. And because of the bravery of the troops stationed at Outpost 107, as well as many other Israeli soldiers and leaders, Israel won a war it had no business even surviving. Acharai, they had said to one another, after me. But winning and war are not things that go together very easily. Even though, in the end, Israel had secured positions deep within Egypt and Syria, the Yom Kippur War was considered one of the biggest tragedies of modern Israeli history. Over 11,000 Israelis lost their lives, the most of any war outside of the War of Independence in 1948. And just as importantly, the Yom Kippur War exposed the vulnerability of this small nation by the Mediterranean Sea for both itself and for its enemies. I was born a few weeks after the ceasefire, and thus grew up in the shadow of the Yom Kippur War. Religious school after religious school teacher taught about the tragic nature of the conflict. While war is almost always tragic, this one was all the more so. There were very few Israelis that had not suffered a loss in their own families. Golda Meir, the Israeli prime minister at the time, who was nicknamed the Iron Lady because of her leadership during the war, resigned a few months later, disgraced by the warnings that had not been heeded right before war broke out. Sadness gripped our Jewish homeland, a fact that even the subsequent Camp David Accords hardly lessened. Perhaps this is best epitomized by a song by the Israeli artist David Broza, who I equate with Bruce Springsteen. He's the Bruce Springsteen of Israel. And one of his famous songs in 1977, Yihiyeh Tov Kain, Lifamim ani nishbar, az halayla, o halayla, itach ani nishar. It will be okay, it will be all right. Sometimes I break apart. Thus tonight, I will stay with you. Looking back now, a half a century after the outbreak of the war, the true history of that period is murky. Golda Meir, thankfully, is now viewed as a hero, celebrated in the movie theater with a triumphant performance by Helen Mirren. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. It was in and out of theaters, but probably a number of you did. And while the tanks from the Yom Kippur War still litter the landscape around both the south and the north of Israel, the depression has long since lifted. That time now represents lost opportunity in the peace process with the Palestinians and the beginning of the religious fervor that now grips even the Israeli government. All these years later, the Yom Kippur War teaches us that our reflections change over time, that even the heaviest of defeats can be recast as a triumph, and that the human spirit is resilient. These are insights that are true not only about a historic period in time, but in life in general. Our personal feelings about an experience are malleable, shifting as the world around us changes. The Hebrew phrase that comes to mind is one that the members of our 2023 Israel Civics Leaders Trip heard quite often when we were in Israel this past February. Zeh misubach. It's complicated. This was a phrase we used almost any time we sat down to discuss almost anything, either in the present or past Israeli history. Take for example, the fact that the war was waged on our holiest day, today, on Yom Kippur of all days. This always struck me as intentionally cruel. Pulling soldiers from synagogues, disrupting age-old rituals with military bombardments felt spiteful and even cynical. But in looking back on what actually happened, it turns out it's a lot more complicated. That October, in addition to being the Jewish holiday season, was also the middle of Ramadan. We were not the only ones fasting. Our Muslim neighbors were fasting as well. And having war break out on Yom Kippur actually helped the Israeli military, ensuring the roads would be clear to mobilize troops. In other words, zeh misubach. It's complicated. The phrase works for Yom Kippur itself. Yom Kippur is not an easy holiday to explain or observe. You might have heard this is the day of dread, but it's also called the happiest day of the year. How do these two emotions go together? We reflect and reflect and reflect, often without coming to a definitive understanding about what we did wrong or how we could do things differently if presented with the same situation. Life is not a puzzle just to be solved, but a muddy, murky river whose bottom is difficult to get to the bottom of. On Yom Kippur, we live not in the Acharai, in the charge after me, but in the Acharei, the time after. If Acharai is about pushing forward into battle, Acharei is about looking back after the battle has already been waged and assessing the damage. The Torah readings that we read here in our community on Yom Kippur are from the end of the Torah, from the book of Deuteronomy. This contrasts with the Torah readings from Rosh Hashanah, which are from the beginning in Genesis, when the story has yet to really unfold. Even the traditional reading that most synagogues read from the book of Leviticus comes from the middle of Leviticus in a section called Acharei Mot, after the death of Aaron's two sons. All of us here know full well what it means to live in the aftermath of events. We enter 5784 after the pandemic, sort of, right? After the massacre at Tops, after the blizzard of 22. This is the first Yom Kippur in 4 years that we've not had to significantly plan around COVID. Our lives, for the most part, have reverted to normal, but they, as we must also recognize, are not normal. The toll these past 4 years have taken on us is immense. It has made us more wary of crowds, more on guard against attackers, more fragile than we had felt before, more mortal. All in all, the pandemic pushed more than, this is crazy, 250 million people into poverty, 70 million into extreme poverty. It left 1 billion children out of school for an entire year, and 700 million for a year and a half. The World Bank estimates today that students risk losing $21 trillion in annual income because of COVID-19. It has widened geographic inequalities, decreased trust in governments, worsened health outcomes, changed our labor market, and has left us with a mental health crisis like we've never seen before. Who here has been left unscathed by what we have gone through? Who here has not personally witnessed the effects on our family, friends, and our community? I can tell you, no one. 32 years ago in 1991, a famous Israeli singer named Yair Rosenblum traveled up to Kibbutz Beit Hashita to help with the healing process from the Yom Kippur War. While nearly 2 decades had passed, the members of the kibbutz had not moved on. In 1973, there had been about 500 kibbutzniks in this small community. 11 lost their life. 11 young people, I should say, lost their lives in the war, the highest percentage of any small town in Israel. Beit Hashita, a kibbutz that produces melons and olives, is known for being defiantly secular. Only a short distance from the Valley of Tears, where Yossi and Amir miraculously survived in Outpost 107, the members of the kibbutz were a cynical bunch, having lost faith not only in God, but in Israel itself. Yom Kippur was approaching, and Rosenblum wanted to bring something that would ease their suffering and restore their faith, not in God, but in life, actually. He turned to the liturgy of Yom Kippur itself. And if you knew this kibbutz, this was shocking. How could you go to the liturgy for this? He recruited the kibbutz's best singer, Hanok Albalak. He organized a choir to sing the holiday's most haunting melody, what we already just sang, the Unatana Tokef. The great shofar sounded, a still small voice was heard. The angels are dismayed, they are seized by fear and trembling as they proclaim, behold the day of judgment. So here, traditionally on this kibbutz, they didn't gather in synagogues. They had their own ritual, which probably involved eating even. What happened next was transformative. As one of the kibbutzmans recalled in Matty Friedman's book on Leonard Cohen, Who by Fire, when Hanok began to sing and broke open the gates of heaven, the audience was struck dumb. While they were secular, they knew the words of the prayer. Tears began to stream down their faces. The healing process, after 2 decades, had finally begun. In the Talmudic tractate Brachot 32b, the rabbis write about the closing of the gates at the end of Yom Kippur. While the gates of prayer shut tight, the rabbis muse, the gates of tears never do. They remain open whenever we need. 8 years ago, I helped lead a group of Buffalonians to Israel, many of whom are in the room today, and many of whom became friends with each other. This was our first, and hopefully not our last, 3 congregational trip. We had Beth Tzedek, Beth Zion, and Shir Shalom. And our first stop on the trip was Yad Lashiron, Israel's official memorial to its armored troops. Not far from the airport, we came there very jet-lagged and exhausted. When you go on an Israel trip, you're exhausted when you get there. Usually you're flying all night, but they tell you, keep going, keep going. Wearily, we climbed in and out of the various tents used in different wars at the entrance to the memorial. Then we gathered by a long black wall marked by names, similar to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. It included the word there wherever the names of every armored soldier who lost their life in any war. The list was organized by each war, and the longest list by far is from the Yom Kippur War. Inside the main building, a computerized database held the pictures of each and every one of these men and women, smiling faces of Israel's youth, the deep price of freedom, and all of them calling out the famous battle cry, Acharai, after me. Here in Yom Kippur, we live in memory of all those who charged ahead. Their stories fold and unfold in our liturgy and in our hearts. We live in the Acharai, after me, beneficiaries of their supreme bravery. But we also live in the Acharei, processing, reevaluating all that has come before. As we look back, may we find empathy and sympathy for both our past decisions and the past decisions of others as well. Let us dig deep inside of ourselves to release the pangs of regret and remorse held in our collective souls. The tears that come, let them serve as a balm, healing the parts of ourselves still unbroken. For as Golda Meir once mused, those who do not know how to weep with their whole heart don't know how to laugh either. May the gates of tears always be open at all times to us and everyone we know. A Gemar Chatima Tova, a writing and a sealing in the book of a life well lived, an easy and meaningful Yom Kippur. We'll take a moment to reflect. Keep here. This here is a reminding. The person wrote Sovachze. It's another form of it was complicated. We have a reading by Deb and Ed Fine if they'd like to join us on the microphone below. This is a reading to prepare for the Torah reading, and it can be found on page 254.
Renew the spirit, refreshing, and sweet to nourish the soul.
Let the reading of Torah be like prayer. Every word a blessing, every verse a conversation with God.
Thank you to the Fines. Wonderful reading. We're going to invite up at this point our Torah carriers. We need Bruce Corris, Marina Finkelstein, Sherry Jo Reich, and Larry Poses to come up. I'm going to have David open our ark, and we're going to rise as we turn to the 13 attributes, which is on page 256. responsively in the middle of the page, the Shema.
Adonai,
congratulate Susan over here. Has never done Yom Kippur before and just got the music yesterday, I think. So. It's incredible. We'll have to tell you the story that we got her because of a soccer game. This is a true story. A friend of mine's connected to her. And yeah, it's a lot. Anyways. All right, we have our first Aliyah. I'd like to invite up Jill Hamilton and Laura Majewski. The Torah reading can be found. And Harvey, do you want to come up, be the Gabbai? We're reading from the end of Deuteronomy. Harvey will tell me what page it's on.
266.
266. There we go. Okay. Here, let me find the place here. And I know you have that. Laura, just make sure you have the right place. Yamo, Tamo, Jill.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach. Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kirvanu levodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem rashechem shiftechem ziknechem v'shotrechem kol ish Yisrael tapechem neshechem v'gerecha asher b'kerev machanecha mechotev etzeha ad shoev memecha liovracha bivrit Adonai Elohecha uve'alato asher Adonai Elohecha koreit imacha hayom Le'ma'an hakim otecha hayom lo le'am v'hu yihyeh lecha le'elohim ka'asher diber lach ve'ka'asher nishba la'avotecha le'avraham le'yitzchak u'le'yakov V'lo itachem levarechem anochi koreit et haberit hazot ve'et ha'ala hazot ki et asher yashno po imanu omed hayom lifnei Adonai Eloheinu ve'et asher einenu Ho imanu hayom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
For the second Aliyah, I'd like to invite up Ganilla Kester as a reader and Dan Kester, new grandparents. L'Aliyah Hasheni.
Verse 11.
protesters.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ki ha-mitzvah zot asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom Lo niflet hi mimecha V'lo rechoka hi Lo vashamayim hi lemor Miyalolanu hashamayim V'yikache alanu V'yashmienu ota V'nasena V'lo me'ever layam hi lemor Miyavor lanu el ever hayam V'yikache alanu V'yashmienu ota V'nasena Ki karov elecha hadavar me'od beficha uvilvavecha lasoto.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For our third Aliyah, I'd like to invite up Frank Klipstein, as well as Nicholas Lowinger and Gwen Lowinger. And what verse are we on now? What's up? Okay, perfect.
Verse 15.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'notan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Re'eh natati lefanecha hayom et hachaim v'et hatov v'et hamavet v'et hara asher anochi metzavecha hayom le'ahava et Adonai Elohecha lalechet bidrachav v'lishmor mitzvotav v'hukotav u'mishpatav v'chayita v'ravita u'v'rachecha Adonai Elohecha ba'aretz asher ata v'shama li'rishta v'im yifnei levavecha v'lo tishma v'nidakta v'hashtachavita l'Elohim acherim va'avdatam Higadati lachem hayom, ki avod tov edun, lo ta'arihun yamim al ha'adama, asher ata over et hayarden, lavo shama lirishta. Hidoti bachem hayom, et hashamayim v'et haaretz, hachayim v'hamavet, natati lefanecha, habaracha v'hakelala, uvacharta b'chayim, למען תחיה אתה וזרעך. לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך, לשמוע בקולו ולדבקבו, כי הוא חייך באורך ימיך, לשבת על האדמה, אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיך, לאברהם ליצחק, וליעקב לתת לכם.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tohenu, Baruch atah Adonai, nosein haTorah. Amen.
We're going to turn now to our healing prayer. Heal Us Now is on page 272. I'm going to read our list from our community and then think about other names you'd like to say. First of all, Joe Glickman, we're sending prayers to him. Frima Ackerholt, Eric Bernard, Stephen Bernstein, Colleen Cohen, Shelley Cordiero, Sue Diath, David Denzel, Jan Drucker, Nancy Durkin, William Wissiam Almaki, David Fierstein, Sue Frank, Michael Gettings, Marlene Glickman, Carolyn Ernie Grosser, Ellen Kaminsky, Colleen and Ruth Kane, Ken Kellick and Elaine Kellick, Mark Nightinger, Jim Kiles, Richard LeBaire, Miles Levy, Fanny Markell, Nancy Millman, Sydney Millman, Joan Ollendorf, Andrea Paprocki, Maddie Renzenberg, Cheryl Rossi, Brandon Ryan, Mary Sigoli, Lorenzo Stewart, Judy Van Horn, Elaine Vashelski, Mike Wheeler, Alexander Woods, Chana Chaya Bat Slatki, Nachum Ben Yisrael Vachaya, and Chana Ezrael Ben Shul. If you have other names, just raise your hand.
Roberta Friedman, Marshall Friedman.
Sheila Chatham. Kristen Dunkel, Caitlin Miller. Mary Draper. Jack Beckman.
Jerry Keeney.
Donna Schaefer. Eric Fox. Mike Woodard.
Shannon Feinberg. Sue Slavin. Talon Ross.
William Cronenberg Jr. and Ivan Wright.
Batami Batshulami. Stephen Glazer.
We bring all those prayers into our hearts as Cantor Choir sing Heal Us Now.
We pray for healing of body
healing to all those in need. We turn to page 274 as we lift the Torah. I'd like to invite up Dan Kester and Ganella Kester to lift and dress the Torah. Please rise if the Torah is lifted.
Besot HaTorah asher שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם מוריד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם מוריד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים.
You may be seated. We turn now to the Haftorah, and Harvey Horowitz is going to lead us. What page are we on, Harvey? 275 for the blessing, 277 for the Haftorah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nbi'im tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nbi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. If we Jews fast on Yom Kippur, we receive forgiveness for all our sins. Right? Not. Listen to Isaiah chapter 58. And this is the next page. Kira v'garon al tachsoch kashofar harim kolecha v'hagei la'ami pisham v'levet Yaakov chatotam. V'oti yom yidrishun v'da'at rachai yechpatzun kegoy asher tzedakah asa u'mishpat Elohav lo azav yishaluni mishpatei tzedek kirvat Elohim yechpatzun. Verse 3 in English. They say, why did we fast? And you, God, do not see it. We afflict ourselves, and you do not know it. Because even on your fast day, Isaiah explains, you think only of desire, while oppressing all who work for you. Because your fasting is filled with strife, and with callous fist you strike, know your fasting this day will not lift up your voice before heavens. God asks, is this the fast I desire? A day to afflict body and soul, bowing your head like a reed, covering yourself with sackcloth and ashes. Do you call this a fast, a day worthy of the favor of Adonai? The key of this Yom Kippur Haftarah is not this the fast I desire, to break the bonds of injustice and remove the heavy yoke, to let the oppressed go free and release all those enslaved? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and to take the homeless poor into your home, and never to neglect your own flesh and blood? Then shall your light burst forth like the dawn, and your wounds shall quickly heal, your righteous one leading the way before you, the presence of Adonai guarding you from behind. Then when you call, Adonai will answer, and when you cry, will respond, I am here. If you remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hand, the malicious word, if you offer your compassion to the hungry and satisfy the suffering, then shall your light shine through the darkness, and your night before bright as noon. Continue on verse 11. V'nachacha Adonai tamid v'hisbia b'taftachot nafshecha v'atzmotecha yachalitz v'hayita kegan raveh uchmotza mayim asher lo yechazeh meimav. Uvanu mimecha charvot olam mosdei dor vador tekomem v'kora lecha goder peretz mishovet netivot lashavet im tashiv mishabat raglecha asot chafatzecha b'yom kodshi v'karata lashabat oneg likdosh Adonai mechubad v'chibadto me'asot rachecha mimetzol cheftecha v'daber davar az titanag al Adonai v'hirkavticha al bomotei aretz v'ha'achalticha nachalat Yaakov avicha ki pi Adonai diber. Page 280. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el haneman ha'omer v'yoseh ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol dvarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah v'al ha'avodah v'al ha'nevi'im v'al yom ha'kippurim hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Limchila v'lishlicha u'lechapara lechavod u'letivaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach u'mevarechim otach yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed u'devacha emet v'kayam la'ad Baruch atah Adonai, melech bocher v'salech la'avonotenu, v'avonot amo beit Yisrael, v'ma'avir shmotenu b'chol shana v'shana. Melech al kol ha'aretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol ha'aretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol ha'aretz, Mekadesh Yisrael, Yom HaKippurim. Amen.
So great to have Harvey back with us. It's my pleasure to invite up David Sapphire from our executive board to share a little something with you.
Good Yontif. Craig Small has been an active member of Congregation Shir Shalom for 20 years. He's been in Buffalo for over 25 years. He is proud to have celebrated the bar and bar mitzvahs of his three children, Jacob, Matthew, and Leah, right here on this bima. He is a former board member of Temple Shir Shalom, Congregation Shir Shalom, and a current volunteer with the Loonsbury Adoptive Ski Program at Holiday Valley. If I didn't say that right, I apologize. Might be Loonsbury or Lounsbury. Thank you. He is a current member of the Men's Club and enjoys helping to build the sukkah year after year. He is also currently on the board of the Foundation for Jewish Philanthropy and its secretary at this time. Craig is an attorney and owns a small law firm. It's a law firm focused on helping injured people. He wants all of us to know that he is available 24/7. Craig is this year's chair of the annual giving campaign, and I am honored to have him come up here and give an appeal to all of us.
This is perfect. I'm very used to this.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
As David said, my name is Craig Small, and I'm the chair of this year's annual giving campaign. It's an honor and a privilege to stand before so many of you today on this holy, holy day. As you know, this campaign, the annual giving campaign, is critical to help our temple function at the highest level. And in part, it's about motivating you to support our bottom line. To some, asking or being asked for money can feel uncomfortable. But when you tweak your narrative just a little bit, it may feel better. In fact, when you put on a pair of your rose-colored sunglasses, the perspective is much different. Those glasses can make everything look, well, rosy. Right, Mark? Or as my mother, Irene, would say, wonderful. But during these days of awe, the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're asked to take off those rose-colored glasses to see our true colors. The days of awe is a time meant for true and unfiltered self-reflection. We've been taught to take the time to recognize our transgressions, our failures, and mistakes. Some might think the days of awe are the days of awful. Who really wants to pick apart one's flaws and dwell on the worst moments during the year and think of yourself as selfish, narrow-minded, or mean-spirited? It can be hard, but that's what we do. And then it feels good to apologize, to seek forgiveness, heal, and move on. But for the purposes of my appeal today, I'm not going to focus on awful. I'm not going to focus on awful. I'm going to focus on the opposite of awful. Do you know what that is? Awesome. The days of awesome. The days of awesome. Personally, it feels good to be associated with awesome. The very word is grand in nature. In fact, we tend to use those words a lot in daily conversation. I seem to think we call lots of things totally awesome. For example, for me, traveling to Israel with my family and experiencing Shabbat at the Kotel in Jerusalem, totally awesome. For me, sailing into a bright orange and red sunset in the summertime on the St. Lawrence River, totally awesome. And witnessing the births of my 3 children, totally awesome. For you, totally awesome might be your wedding day, or being in love, passing the bar exam, witnessing a doctor save someone's life on a football field, or going home for Shabbat and savoring your mom's matzo ball soup. We're blessed to experience so much awesomeness. But what about right here at Congregation Shir Shalom? Look at the totally awesome things around us. Look. I've got 10, my top 10. Starting with number 10, our choir. See? They're totally awesome. Our synagogue. When you walked in, did you notice the new carpets, the new lights, the new windows, the new paint? You're sitting on a pickleball court. Did you know that? It's totally awesome. Todd Sugarman, the president, and our board are the reasons this place is totally awesome. Number 8, our High Holidays musicians. Last night we had a beautiful cellist. Last week we had Ken Kaufman, Today, we've got Susan. She's never played. Thank you.
Totally awesome.
She's totally awesome. Number 7, Max Goldhirsch. Where are you? Where are you? Stand up, please. If you heard Max sing last week during Rosh Hashanah, how would the world look? You would agree. Max Goldhirsch, a 16-year-old from Amherst, and a member of this temple. Repeat after me.
Totally awesome.
Thanks, Max. Number 6, the children. I cried when I said children. Whether the children are in morning services, our family service, community religious school, we love our kids. We love them. We love that they're participating, learning, sharing their lives with us. We love their strong spirit, and we love their presence. The children are
Totally awesome.
Number 5, he's not here, but Stephen Glickman is totally awesome. Stephen Glickman sounds the shofar. He's a 3rd-generation shofar blower, and he can sound Tikiyah, Shevarim, and Teruah like nobody's business. He is flawless, consistent, and talented. I blew the bugle in Boy Scouts when I was a kid, and I cannot touch a shofar. Sounding the shofar is extremely difficult, and he makes it look easy. I wish he was here to hear me say it. But Stephen Glickman, you are totally awesome. Number 4, you. Each and every one of you in this congregation, you are essential. You are our lifeblood. You are the reason this temple exists. You come together to worship, to celebrate, to laugh, to cry, to mourn, to eat, and repent. And you make our clergy happy. You are
Totally awesome.
Number 3, Rabbi Alex. Rabbi Alex is the kindest, most humble, enthusiastic, and steady leader this temple could be blessed with. He's unfailingly available, supportive, interested, and knowledgeable about Torah. He's our rabbi, and he is.
Totally awesome.
He is. Number 2, and she would be number 1, but I had to leave that for something else. Number 2 is Cantor Arlene Frank. When Cantor Frank sings, I am awestruck. I can't believe how beautiful her voice is. It's definitely not the microphone, because if I sang via hafta into this microphone, it would not sound like that. Cantor Frank's voice is so beautiful, so pure and so heavenly, she makes the birds in the trees envious. Cantor Frank is
Totally awesome.
Number 1, the best and the top reason we love Congregation Shir Shalom is because it's safe. It's safe. You come to temple and you sit here knowing you're in a protected space. You're protected by our security officers and these beautiful walls around us. And feeling safe is priceless. Being safe is totally awesome. And here's my spiel. Unfortunately, totally awesome comes with a price. It simply isn't always free. And more unfortunate is that limited annual dues and periodic chicken dinners are just not enough to keep our Congregation Shir Shalom boat afloat. The annual giving campaign is about recognizing totally awesome when you see it and giving generously, because the price of totally awesome is totally worth it. Now for the easy part. I wouldn't be doing my job as chair of the annual giving campaign if I didn't ask you to take out your blue cards. If I didn't ask you to be generous, to listen to the top 10 reasons why I love this synagogue and why you do too, to think of your own totally awesome reasons that you're here, listening to me, listening to this fantastic clergy. I'm sorry Todd Sugarman couldn't be here, because I think he'd be enjoying it also. But if he can hear me, hi Todd. So please, take out your card, take out your pen and do me a favor. Does everyone have their card? Here's mine. If you're asking yourself how much to give, look at the number that you chose and move one to the right and circle that one. It's a little more than you wanted, but it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Our ushers are going to come around and collect the cards. And if you would, please hand them to them. If you don't have your card, please don't forget what I said. And when you go home, find your card or text your pledge to the synagogue and let them know that you think they are. Thank you.
You were totally awesome.
Really practical.
You know, Rabbi, I'm looking around the room and there are really so many awesome things.
It is
I
so
mean-
true. I love that.
I'm looking at Bruce like being totally awesome right now.
Yeah,
It's
our
like he always
best
is-
announcer. That,
And Joanne's like out there being awesome, and I'm awestruck. I really am.
I love how he picked up right on the Rosh Hashanah sermon. That was perfect. If you want to list your moments of awesome, there's place it right up front. As everyone's coming around, we're going to just invite, I need up at the Bima Carol Schmeidler, who, as soon as we're ready, oh, it's not doing it. I'm doing it. Oh, sorry about that. I knew Bruce told me something. Please forgive me. Well, that makes it easy. No one has to come up. And we're going to be on page 294. Thank you. Thank you for all of your awesomeness. As we're going to keep saying this the whole time.
We're really blessed.
Hear our call, Adonai our God. Show us compassion. Accept our prayer with love and goodwill. Take us back, Adonai. Let us come back to you. Renew our days as in the past. Hear our words, Adonai. Understand our unspoken thoughts. May the speech of our mouth and our heart's quiet prayer be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and our redeemer. Do not cast us away from your presence or cut us off from your Holy Spirit. Do not cast us away when we are old as our strength diminishes. Do not forsake us. Do not forsake us, Adonai. Be not far from us, our God. With hope, Adonai, we await you. Surely you, Adonai, our God, you will answer. We rise for the Vidui, page 296, our chance to confess and open up together as a congregation. Take our fists and we lightly tap, a reminder to do better as we sing responsively the Ashamnu.
Ashamnu,
like to invite up Michael and Joanne Berger on page 305 at the top. We focused inward. You may be seated.
We focused inward, narrowing our vision. We were preoccupied with ourselves. We turned our backs on the poor and the defenseless. We were contemptuous of the weak. We tolerated violence against children, neglect of the old, exploitation of the innocent. We told ourselves there was nothing we could do.
We wasted the resources of the earth. We denied our own responsibility and put it out of our mind. We kept silent when we should have spoken out. We gave into cynicism and despair.
We sought entertainment instead of enlightenment. We were lazy, indifferent, and callous. We forgave ourselves too easily for our failures. We forgot that we will always have a chance. Choice.
Sorry to do this, gotta have you rise one more time for the Al Chait, page 306. We're gonna read in English from that page 306, till the bottom. Oh, actually, let's go back one page, 304. Responsibly. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by hating without cause together. The ways we have wronged you by losing self-control, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. The ways we have wronged you through greed and exploitation, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. The ways we have wronged you by offering or accepting bribes, the harm we have caused in your world by profaning your name in public. Together, for all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Seated. I'd like to invite up Bruce Chorus. Where are you? Bruce is going to offer our announcements.
Shana Tova to you and your families. Thank you, of course, Rabbi Alex Cantor Frank, special guest accompanist Susan Schumann, our choir, and everyone that contributed for a beautiful, beautiful service in honor of Yom Kippur. For those of you keeping track, Susan is our third accompanist during these out of 4 services. Our cantor, with all the planning she has to do, has had to be extremely flexible this year. And we haven't missed a beat. We absolutely have not missed a beat. Speaking of not, 4th? Oh, my, 4. There were Ken, Ivan, Susan, and I counted Ken. And Susan. She's the 3rd. Third. Nick. We had Nick. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, 4th. I can't keep track. She can. Thank goodness for that. Thank you to Craig Small. Where's Craig? I thought he was still up here. That was a totally awesome appeal. That was great. And thank you to you for giving so generously. As Craig mentioned, annual appeal is very important here. We have a building that will be 64 years old next month. Those of us who are around the same age know that things go wrong at that point. Plumbing, foundation, things like that. So annual giving helps us not just take care of things we need to do, but things we want to do. And that's so important, to be able to do things for you, our members. We're not done with services, not by a long shot. We're going to segue to Yisker right after this. That's at 1 o'clock. And we brought back a really beautiful tradition that we started last year, which is instead of lighting the candles, we will have stones. And every time a person's name is read that we lost in the last year, their loved ones can come up and place that stone in the bowl. It was really powerful last year, and so that's a new tradition that we are going to stay with. And so that's at 1 o'clock. Reflections are at 2 o'clock. This year the theme is science and religion, which is really, really topical right now this year. Family service is at 3 o'clock. Healing service at 4:30. Mincha, Torah/Nila service is at 6, followed, of course, by breaking the fast together. So we have a break fast here in the building tonight around 7 o'clock. It's going to depend on how long he goes at the end of the service. And that's very nice to be able to do. Thank you to Tara, Steve, and Sadie Cross, and to Rabbi Alex for sponsoring the break fast this year. Todd, of course, is not here in the room with us. Hi, Todd. Thank you to Todd for landscaping our plot at Whitechapel and cleaning it up. I know some of you went to the Kippur vote service, and many others just stop in regularly to visit your loved ones, and having Todd clean up our plots like that is a real mitzvah. If you did make a reservation for the break fast, make sure you follow the directions as we enter the social hall after the final service. A couple things, now that we get through this part of it, the high holidays are wrapping up, but the medium high holidays are still continuing. We have the men's group building our sukkah on Wednesday. No experience needed, and as very important in this group, no mechanical aptitude needed. We'll help you out. We're also going to have the corner reading series this Thursday, but we're also going to have, as we move through in the high holidays, we're going to have Sukkot, we're going to have Simchat Torah, so your leaflet has all of those in it. We're also going to bring back another tradition, which is potluck dinner. We're going to have our new member Shabbat on Friday, October 20th, beginning with a potluck dinner. Bring your favorite dish to share. We're going to welcome all our new members, and then we're going to have a festive bonus to follow. Our adult education committee has brought together something really special, sponsored by Michael Berger and his family, and we appreciate that. It's called Jews of All Hues, and it will begin on it'll be the first Friday of each month from November through June, a special Shabbat where we will highlight different regions of Judaism from around the world. And a special Oneg Shabbat will follow, catered by Zach Rosenblum, which will feature a regional appetizer and a dessert reflective of that month's topic. So we will be traveling the world of Judaism for spirituality and food, the first Friday of every month, which will be wonderful. Speaking of food, thank you to those of you that have brought back your bags filled with food for our high holiday appeal. If you have not yet and you're coming back later today, please do so. That is such an important thing that we do. As we wrap up this morning service and segue through the remainder of the day, if you need anything throughout the course of the day, please look for Joanne, myself, one of the ushers who are wearing the boutonniere. We are here for you. Lashana Tova, a happy new year, a healthy new year, a better new year for everyone. Thank you for being part of our wonderful, totally awesome Shir Shalom family.
And we'll close here today with Hayom, the special day. It's on page 318. As you leave, just make sure to bring your maksarim to the front, minus the leaflet, and I hope you'll join us for the rest of the day as well.
Amen.
Hayom te'amsenu, amen.
An easy and meaningful fast.
All of 18, 17 minutes.
If you're staying for Yisker, you can stay in the room. If not, please make your way to the outside and just be wary of the hallway as well. We do not have doors.